Hello, good people of YouTube, Mountbatten here, and today we are taking a look back at a ship that many of you guys have requested me to take a look back at, since apparently a lot of you guys got this in the Santa Containers event this year, and it is the Poltava, the Tier 7 Soviet battleship. And this is a ship that I think she's almost 2 years old now in game. She's been out for a little while. She's not a fantastic ship in my mind, but we will go through all that and we'll look at her ups and downs. And there are quite a few ups to this ship, but it's a bit of a mixed bag. I'm just telling you guys up here at the front. But anyway, let's go ahead and look at her. So, this is a Tier 7 Soviet battleship. This was released just for sale, no special event or anything like that. So starting out with her armor, the ship has a massive, absolutely massive 26mm nose. The thing with the ship is that this was a battleship designed to operate in the North Atlantic. That's why there's this humongous bow on this ship. And the Poltava is actually around the same length as an Iowa. If you pull up next to an Iowa, it's pretty much the exact same length, but 2 tiers down with about 20,000 less HP than an Iowa. But the bow does have a thin icebreaker bow that is 200 millimeters thick. So, yeah, that's the middle finger to everything if you shoot it there, but that big honking nose on the top and bottom, not exactly a hard target to miss. Her main belt is 370 millimeters thick. Her lower belt is 290 millimeters. Her upper belt is 200 millimeters as well. She does have a stern strip that almost wraps around the stern, but does not at 200 millimeters. Her stern armor is 26 millimeters thick, along with her stern deck. Her mid deck is 40 millimeters thick, and her bow deck is 26 millimeters thick as well. Now, a big downside to this ship is that her citadel is high and dry and exposed. There's nothing in the way, no torpedo protection, nor any type of turtleback armor, and it is not the slightly curved armor that most of the Soviet battleships get. Well, it's slightly angled upward, but it's mostly flat for just about all of the length of the side. So it's an incredibly easy battleship to citadel, so do not show your sides of this thing at all. Just forget about that. Stay bow in, angled in. Try to bait ships into shooting your 200mm strip on your bow or your cheek, where you've got the 370mm and the 200mm plating kind of combining together, and you will bounce pretty much anything that gets shot at you. That's the big trick with this ship. Speaking out of survivability, like I said, with her hit points, she got about 20k less HP than the Iowa at 59,100. Her torpedo protection is actually kind of nice, 33% on a Tier 7 battleship. That's pretty darn good by Tier 7 standards. That's better than a lot of Tier 10 battleships, ironically. Now, her guns are interesting to say the least. She has 9 356mm guns. That means no overmatching for you at Tier 7. Even at Tier 6 and Tier 5, there's not a whole lot you can overmatch with these guns. Yeah. They have a 28-second reload time. With the build that I have on, they have a 180 time at 37 seconds. I'll throw my build up here for you guys to see. I do believe this is pretty much the optimum build for this ship. Just a normal battleship tank build, especially if you've got Kuznetsov on there that helps out the ship in terms of survivability a lot. She has a maximum range of 18.3 kilometers, which isn't a terrible amount at Tier 7, but it's certainly not a lot either, and there's no spotter plane or anything to get that out any further. The HE has a 41% chance of causing a fire on target, which is thankfully decent. Couple that with a 28-second reload time with 9 guns. That's decent for the caliber, especially considering there's no overmatch or anything like that, so you can fall back on that if need be. The AP and HE come out the tubes at 895 meters a second, and the AP has a maximum damage of 11,250. The Sigma on this ship is 1.7, and she gets American battleship dispersion, and she does not have the Soviet dispersion gimmick, which means the closer you get to the target, your dispersion will not improve, however you will hit more. So this ship is, gun-wise and armor-wise too, essentially a Soviet Tier 7 Roma. that should pretty much tell you what you need to know. The guns are not accurate, really. You have a decent reload time, I'll give it that. And you can't really overmatch much. But, good God, when ships show you broadside and your shells hit, you will chunk them a lot. A lot. A terribly lot. But you have to have ships show you broadside, which doesn't really happen all that much. Now, it is a Tier 7 ship, so you will be seeing Tier 5 and Tier 6 ships, and those players are, more often than not, newer players, so they may slip up, show you their broadside, and you can, just casually remove 15 to 20k easy from their side, especially other battleships. But you have the same downsides as the Roma. These 356mm guns with the Soviet shells and the gun velocity and the shell locks, which are actually really quite flat, which is pretty nice, they have around the same penetrating capacity as 16-inch guns, as the Colorado 16-inch guns. Around. Not the same. I believe it's a little bit lower, but they punch well above their weight class. Again, just like the Roma. So, again, when they connect, you will do a lot of damage in this ship. But, just like the Roma, you have the frustrating dispersion where you really feel like you should connect on the target, but then your shells don't. Half of them go in the water, half of them go over the ship. One hits the ship and it overpins it for a negligible amount of damage. Happens all the time here with the Poltava. So, yeah. Great pins, terrible accuracy in most cases. AA, she has actually decent AA. Goes out to 6 kilometers, which is quite nice. She does have secondary guns, by the way, but they're not really much to write home about. Definitely not worth a secondary build, just there for the AA. So, decent AA, goes out to 6 kilometers. Not an AA barge, but pretty good AA for the tier. Maneuverability is where another highlight comes in. Without the speed flag, the ship has a 28-knot top speed. With the speed flag, it goes 30.5 knots, so it's up there with one of the faster Tier 7 battleships. It has a 14.8 second rudder shift time and a 1,000 meter turning circle because long, skinny Soviet boat. So, yeah. Now, concealment, this is where another positive is with the commander skill. You get your concealment down to 12.2 kilometers, which for Tier 7, that's pretty darn good. At higher tier, especially when you get up to Tier 9, it's nice having that 12 kilometer detect because you can stay unspotted by the enemy team. Now, of course, that only gives you about 6 kilometers and change to work with your firing range, but, I mean, hey, it's better than a lot of other Tier 7 battleships. So how the hell do you play this thing? Well, you need to use the speed and stealth of this ship to try and get around to the side of other enemy ships, which again you can do because the ship is fast, it's maneuverable. Get to the side and start pumping your 9 guns into them. And like I said, the guns aren't very accurate, but when they hit, they hit. And you do not want to show flat broadside. Now, of course, being a ship with a 26mm bow, there's quite a few Tier 7, and we get up to the Tier 8 and Tier 9. Plenty of ships that can overmatch your bow. So you can't really bow tank like you can in other Soviet battleships. Even lower tier Soviet battleships, they have fantastic armor and great icebreakers to where you can bow tank for days. The Poltava, I mean, it's got one, but it's very skinny and the nose is massive. So you want to kind of entice the enemy team to shoot you around your cheek. Again, very similar to the Roma, or stay angled in or out. And when you're angled in and out, I mean, the Citadel armor is enough to bounce shells, but you don't want to get too cheeky and overconfident and show flat broadside or not angled enough and just get blaps. But again, if you're mindful of your angling, just stay sharply angled into the enemy team. You can do okay in the Poltava. It's one of the more frustrating ships to play, again up there with the Roma, but when this ship does work, and when you can get to the broadside of enemy ships, this ship performs very, very, very well. It's not often, but it can. If you're used to playing the Roma, or even most Soviet battleships in terms of pushing in and knowing when to push. So when like the enemy team is either collapsing on a flank or their flanks falling, that's when you push them with the Poltava. Because again, when you get closer with the guns, you don't get the improved dispersion, but hey, the closer you are to the target, it's a lot harder to miss. And in those situations, it does quite well. And plus two, there's a fair few lower tier cruisers that if they're not paying attention to you and you manage to aim properly and the shells go where you would like them to go, you can just Thanos snap cruisers out of the match in this ship. I've done it quite a few times just playing the ship for this video. It doesn't happen often, but when it happens, it happens. Again, just like the Roma, when the cruisers angle sharply in enough to where now your very good pins allow your shells to hit their citadel and detonate in their citadel. It's good for that, if you know when to take advantage of the enemy team. So essentially, it is a tier 7 Soviet Roma, like I said at the start of this video, and if you like the Roma, you probably like the Poltava. The Roma, in my opinion, would be the better choice because, well, its armor's better and it's not a tier 7. Being a tier 7, this ship does get up to tier 9, and with no spotter plane, and with 356 millimeter guns, with great pins, but not the ability to overmatch anything, really. You have to resort to HE spamming when you're fighting tier 8, 9, and 10 battleships if they're not showing you their sides. Which, again, the HE's decent. It's not British HE by any stretch of the imagination, but it's decent enough to work, but then again, you are in a tier 7 ship in a tier 9 game, and that just sucks, and this is one of the worst ones to be in my opinion. So overall, I would give the Poltava it's around the border of a 5 or 6 for me, but I would give it a 6. Because when it is top tier, it's great if you know how to play the Roma. The pros are the great pins on the gun, the concealment, the speed of the ship, and the armor in a tier 7 game is good. It really is. But that big honking nose does come back to haunt you in the higher tier games, so I guess that would be the armor would just be kind of a null point for me. The negatives are only 356 millimeter guns. God, I had to get that out. So that means no overmatch, little to no overmatch capabilities. Massive turning circle radius. The citadel is high and dry. And, of course, it is a tier 7 ship, so you will have to see tier 9 games. So that's the Poltava, guys. That's my 2 cents on it. Again, it's not bad. It's just very situational. Very, very, very situational. But thankfully, at tier 7, the way tier 7 matches go, the Poltava can still hang in there and do quite a fair bit of damage and do what a battleship was meant to do. It is pretty tanky, again, when it is in a tier 7 game and you know how to angle your armor. So guys, let me know what you guys think about the Poltava down below. Hope this helped you guys that got her this Santa container event. Hope this helped you all out quite a bit. Hope you're having a wonderful Tuesday. And hope to catch you guys in the next one.